Is there in man a questing for wilderness? It seems to me the comfortable mystics of today believe they can afford real loneliness and deprivation in their search for utopia. This is Kerry in Ireland, the Dingle Peninsula. 3 miles west of the world, Great Blasket Island raises its insubstantial form, windswept, unsophisticated, and lonelier than death. For nearly 200 years, this rugged patch of land supported a keen-eyed, resourceful race whose living was governed by the elemental wildness of the Atlantic. Today, there's little sign that 400 people were living here in the 19th century. In 1952, the last 21 members of that island community left, abandoning Great Blasket to weeds and decay. A once flourishing fishing village shut down. The government in Dublin helped them come ashore finally and settled them where they could contemplate their former existence from the relative haven of Dunquin. They were men of granite who once wrought scant crops of oats and potatoes from the thin Blasket soil. But who is there who will not forgive them for exchanging their perilous island heritage for the easier life and more profitable toil in the gentler landscape of the Kerry mainland? Or if they put to sea, not forgive their luxury trade in lobster in place of the mackerel and bream which were once the staples of their own diet? Those departed islanders who did not perish at sea were borne across the channel for Christian burial in the Dunquin cemetery, leaving behind a quaint legacy of grace and wit in the Irish tongue.
I left
the island around 20 years ago. There was no work there. There was no money there, and no girls there. And the people were getting old, and there were no children there. The young people had left to work on the mainland. But I go back once a week, twice a week, sometimes 3 times. It's the most beautiful place in Ireland. I'd say that it is, when the weather's fine. So I'd go back, but I wouldn't like to stay in the winter. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. But if there were 5 or 6 people with me, maybe I'd stay. But I wouldn't stay there on my own. There's a couple there now, a couple making tea and coffee, and they're not islanders, but people from England, trying to make small pennies.
Small pennies for an island idyll. But those who coin them seem practical visionaries. Roger and Lesley Hambrook run a guest house among these cottages. He's an agricultural botanist, she a marine biologist. They met on a field trip to the Burren in County Clare when they were at Reading University. Lesley, an unlikely candidate for city life, grew up in Birmingham and held her breath till she found Ireland in her blood. Roger is the son of a Sussex farmer. Daniel knows about goats and is an only child in an island of cliffs. It takes confidence to put one's family in this sort of situation. One could very easily get carried away by the whole philosophy of island life, launch into it enthusiastically like some sort of survival fetish, a cure-all for the neuroses of your particular bit of civilization. For Roger and Lesley, it holds an ideal, yes, but more. It's just a further step along a path they chose before they dreamed of islands.
I suppose there is a romantic element in living on an island, which I didn't think I would find when I came here. I wasn't looking for it, but now that I've lived on an island, there's definitely something in it. I've met people here who've been very keen on islands, and I didn't really understand that at first, but it's definitely something that I could get very keen on, just islands in general, but this island in particular.
Daniel, look.
Roger first saw an advert in a magazine, which was a very amusing wording. I suppose it caught his eye, for people to come and work for very little money somewhere on the Dingle Peninsula. I think it appealed to him.
The unpalatable pieces of urban existence cause one of three reactions. You stay in the swim and suffer. You drop out and suffer. Or you drop out and discover another way to live. But isn't it strange irony that there should be unpalatable pieces in an island existence, which made the islanders too seek a different living? How odd that their derelict heritage should prove so attractive to those who have spurned their own.
How we differ from the people who left back in '52 is, I suppose, very difficult to realise. Certainly, I suppose the aspirations would be different. They probably wanted a better standard of living. They see how the people live on the mainland. Whereas we want a more secluded way of life. We want to be able to not do our own thing, I don't like that expression, but to lead our own life the way which we can get the most out of it. We've only got one life after all.
No man is an island. He just wants to live there part of the time. What is this island business anyway? Is it the full stop on saying no to the values you've been brought up to? The ultimate rejection? Is this the last available way to say, I am? There has to be some reasoning at work. After all, these people didn't come here to take advantage of the fishing or the rabbits. True, they knew about the tourists, but then it's easier to run a guest house where there's electricity and telephones and a road to the door. Utopia? Does it exist? Won't the mainland muscle in to finger you, soil your isolation? Independence and solitude are about as permanent as a row of greens. No matter how hard you cultivate them, they get swallowed up by people, plural. People you shouldn't want because they're trespassing on your dream, but you do want because they contribute to your domestic exchequer.
That's all the eggs.
Oh,
that's really good.
That's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, it's really nice and soup.
I didn't have any like that.
You know where you are, though, when a passing fisherman sends up a bucket of crabs. No one round here would eat them. They've their claws torn off for the export market before being tossed back into the sea to grow more. It's the visitors who can't get enough of crabs.
I find that people that come to the island behave differently when they get to the island. I found that people are immediately ready to muck in and help and do anything that needs doing, whatever it may be, which if they stayed in a hotel or a guest house, they'd never dream of doing. I think that's about it, isn't it?
All over Britain, beaches are being closed to save them from being loved to death. There isn't much danger of that happening out here. More likely the rabbits will take over. A few boatloads of visitors can disperse quickly and lose themselves in the landscape. Some come just for a few hours, others to stay, if only for overnight. A few will leave as they arrived, untouched. But many will give themselves, even for a fleeting moment, to this sea-washed rock, and know the island man inside themselves.
I do, to some extent, depend on people visiting the island. Call them tourists or trippers or whatever you like. And in the summer, they do come over in their thousands, I suppose, and every year seems to see an increase.
Could this be the point where ideals bow before economic reality? You've really got to like people to work this hard for them. And there's the paradox. Where is the seclusion you sought when you settled your desert island? Gone for the chop when you invited the world and his wife to join you for lunch.
Is it one sandwich each? Yeah? Yes, that's fine. Ham and salad together, or Whichever word comes.
It's nice to meet people. It's a great place to meet people. You meet the kind of people that want to come to an island. And often as not, they are people with similar interests. And you get the island freaks, the people that travel around all the islands of the British Isles. And we've had some of them stay. And made really good friends with them. And it's all part of the enjoyment.
Convincing enough. Yet it seems a luxury to enjoy this ambiguous life, where contemplation must constantly give way to practicality. More and more people want to stay in your guest house, and expanding in the remote Blasket Islands isn't a matter of sending for help to the tourist board. They don't even know of your existence. Anyway, haven't you enough to occupy you, accommodating 12 guests at a time? Can you afford to throw away more privacy? Can you afford not to? Roger's current plan will bring 2 more cottages into his arrangements. But at the moment, they're open to the sky and will need a great deal of attention. It means ordering building materials ahead, getting them over by boat, and hauling them up here. This is no apprentice in structural repair. He's earned his keep in this business before now. But it's more than being able to use a hammer and saw. It's part of picking up other people's pieces. After a while, every ruin will become a challenge, part of a long-term ambition. Very long-term. Putting down roots is no restoration comedy.
I think a lot of people that come to the island have a reason for coming. Often they want isolation for a particular reason, and it's always very interesting to find out what that reason is.
The sense of curiosity is mutual. You'll have to answer many a question about yourselves before the night's out. Questions you've answered on other nights to other visitors, and questions you will answer again. But each time, it's a new encounter, and you, the focus of the island, become its ear on the world, recipients of confidences and revelations such as you never could have imagined. This is the place where voices drop into a lower key, and people come as if at the end of a journey of personal change, to share, to be cleansed, to face the world anew. I don't know what it is about this island that ignites the spark of eloquence, releases the torrent. I don't know. Perhaps it's because there's no longer a world outside. Perhaps it's the sea coursing in our veins. Perhaps.
Get it for myself.
No, I'd probably be up anyway.
Will you? Okay, well then
What time are you actually going out?
about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I won't be up.
That's what I thought.